Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, a special edition with Judge Roy Moore. He's running for the U.S. Senate. We've also invited Doug Jones, his opponent, to be on the show. He's running too, you know. Oops, there he goes. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today we are at Republican headquarters outside of Birmingham, and our special guest is Judge Roy Moore, running for the U.S. Senate. Judge Moore, thank you.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you.
You and I live in basically the same community. We know a lot of the same folks, not political folks, just home folks. So I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks talking to people in Etowah County that have known you for years and years, and they're still supporting you. Over the last several weeks, sort of the unexpected has occurred, and so the poll numbers in this race has turned different than we ever expected. I'd like to first order of business remind people why you're running for the U.S. Senate.
Well, I'm running for the United States Senate because I believe I can make a difference. I know I can make a difference. My knowledge of the judicial branch would enable me to elect and to select judges that should serve on the United States Supreme Court and federal district courts who are loyal to the Constitution, who have not put themselves above that Constitution they're sworn to uphold. I also know a lot about the military. I graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point and served in the Army. I was in Vietnam as a company commander. And I also have two sons, one at West Point and one in the military now. So I know a lot about the military and what makes the military work. And it's one of the major things that our country and our government has to do is protect us and secure our borders. I think I can make a difference with immigration, with health care, and the other issues which confront the people of this country and this state.
A lot of you bring up the courts, and I've talked to a lot of Republicans that say this is a key issue for them. Not only the Supreme Court, but the other parts of the federal judiciary. There's so many vacancies that President Trump really has an opportunity to reshape the courts for a generation. Is that you're seeing that too? I'd
see that too. In fact, we know that Kennedy perhaps is going to retire soon. That'll be a vacancy on the Supreme Court. And it's very important because of the way we think. If it were the way the Constitution is, it would be less important. But the way we put judges above the law, that anything they rule, 5 members of the Supreme Court is Justice Scalia, who's now deceased, and Justice Roberts said, they can change our whole Constitution, and that's improper.
Right, and I know you are definitely strict on the Constitution, and I think most Alabamians agree we need to return to a strict interpretation of the Constitution and not this sort of living document that we have.
Right,
now.
we need to have a strict constructionist view of the words in the Constitution, and we also need an understanding of why the Constitution is there, what it was meant to do, and we should abide by it. Checks and balances, separation of powers, the principle of federalism in the 10th Amendment. We need to understand what these things mean. And we need to know the words. The 10th Amendment, for example, says the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it, the Constitution, to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. A lot of people don't know what powers people have that neither the state or the federal government have. And, you know, I think we need to know these things.
But I think they would like to keep everybody ignorant because it's easy to control folks if they're ignorant of what their rights are. Wouldn't you agree?
Some people say ignorance is bliss. I don't believe that.
I don't either. Sometimes I'd love to be more blissful, but I don't want to be any more ignorant. You know, it's one of the things here, too, and I know you say why you're running. With all this craziness coming around, and with actually a Democrat in striking distance of becoming a U.S. Senator from Alabama, I mean, this is a strange time. Why should Alabamians vote for you instead of a Democrat, or this Democrat, Doug Jones?
Well, I think because I represent their values, I represent what they believe. Alabamians, like me, many people in the South, are very conservative. They want judges that go by the law. They want immigration to be under the Congress purview of what the law is and what they've passed. They don't want courts or anybody else making it up as they go. They don't want presidents imposing on them, for example, Common Core. Most of the people in Alabama don't like Common Core. I don't like Common Core, but above that, I don't like federal government involvement in the education system of our state. I think it's wrong. It's a violation of the 10th Amendment. It's a violation of the Article 1, Section 8 powers of Congress. And yet we do that both in Republican and Democratic administrations. So I understand a lot about the Constitution and the people of Alabama, and I can't wait to take those values to Washington, D.C.
One of the best commercials I've seen. One of the things about Mr. Jones, we've had him on our show, The V, before, and he promised he would come back. We have emailed him, we've texted him, I have his private phone number, I've called him, everything I can possibly do, and he has refused to come back on because I wrote an article or an opinion that said people in Alabama find abortion so extreme and offensive that there's little else to talk about once you decide that abortion should have no restrictions whatsoever.
Well, we differ so much on most of the issues, and I haven't found an issue we agree on. Let me put it that way. And with regard to abortion, he believes abortion should be up to full term. I do not believe abortion is a good decision by the United States Supreme Court in Roe versus Wade. I would work to see that overturned. I would want judges who recognize that Roe versus Wade, although it's been around since '73, is not the supreme law of the land because it contradicts the right to life given to us in our founding documents. The Declaration of Independence, for example, says we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. God gives us our rights. Government is there, as it says in the next sentence, is there to secure those rights for us. When we neglect that principle, we become a nation that is killing its own citizens.
Well, I think most folks, statistically over 60% find it is murder, and they think it should not be allowed. Mr. Jones has said that he supports, he has no limit. He's tried to walk that back. I think the people in Alabama want some limits on what can happen to an unborn child.
Again, it goes back to strict construction. In the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment, we find the right to life. It's also in the Declaration of Independence. Life was defined by our founding fathers. Life was defined by Blackstone's commentaries by the law which they were based upon. It's that life was the immediate gift of God, a right inherent in nature in every individual, and it begins in contemplation of law as soon as the infant stirs in its mother's womb. We have forgotten that principle.
I'm sorry. We're going to have to hold it there. A lot of these folks don't believe in God, so they don't necessarily believe that God gave life. But we're going to hold it right there until next segment. You're watching The V, a very special interview with Judge Roy Moore. He's running for U.S. Senate.
food security, healthy citizens, and a strong Alabama economy. It all starts with our local family farms. I'm State Senator Tom Watley, and I'm proud of my work to support our local agriculture industry by cutting taxes, pushing to eliminate the overly burdensome regulations, and ensuring our agricultural entrepreneurs have the access they need to a skilled and legal workforce. When we work together to boost all of our Alabama, we're boosting our family farms, and we've got more work to do. I'm running for re-election because I want to go back to Montgomery and give the farmers the tools they need to expand, thrive, and continue to serve as the main driver for our economy. I'm Senator Tom Watley, and I humbly ask for your vote on Election Day.
I'm Roy Moore, and I approve this message. The same Washington insiders who don't like President Trump are trying to stop our campaign. They just don't like conservatives like us. They call us warmongers for wanting to rebuild the military, racists for securing our borders, bigots for recognizing the sanctity of marriage, and they call us foolish for believing in God. They're afraid I'm going to take our Alabama values to Washington, and I can't wait.
Welcome back to The V, a special edition with Judge Roy Moore. Judge Moore, because of these late-breaking allegations against you personally, it has set this race on its head. I'm reminded of when the Swift Boats Veterans for Truth came out after John Kerry. John Kerry had a fairly distinguished military career, but that they hit him where he was strong, or at least they thought he was strong. You have always stood for morality, even if it cost you. You have said that. You have, as far as we know, lived it. But now, 3 women have come forward to accuse you of what we consider the unthinkable about you as a person, but others are readily accepting it. Do you think some of this goes back to the 10 Commandments, or does it go back to where you took a stand on the 10 Commandments? Or does this have more to do with when you stood up and said that same-sex marriage is not yet the law of the land?
Well, it's part of everything, Bill. They know I've stood for moral values, and so they're attacking me in that area. I understand that. But it's also part of a scheme of political parties today and political candidates in both parties, quite frankly, to degrade your opponent, to take him down so that you appear to go up. And that's just a simple political tactic. Ritual defamation has been around for a long time, and that's what this is. And they've done this. It's inconceivable to think that somebody would wait 40 years because they were embarrassed or ashamed of something, and then less than 30 days before the general election come out and make allegations and then appear on a political advertisement when they've waited 40 years not to be embarrassed. They put their pictures, my opposing opponent has put these pictures on political advertisements. And this is simply inconceivable. People don't do that. It's done for political purposes. And when this race is over on 12 December, it will be over.
Of course, we've all been attacked by either the right, left, for anything negatively said about you or positively said about you. You are a polarizing figure. That's a given. I don't
Well,
think
when you
anybody
believe
will
in
admit
God and you acknowledge God, that automatically points to a difference with some in our society.
Sure.
And it paints you as a polarizing figure because you believe in what this country is founded upon. There is no doubt that our founding fathers, that throughout our history, we have acknowledged the sovereignty of God. We've recognized God in our law, one nation under God, in our pledge. In God we trust on our money and on our national motto. But today, that causes you to be polarizing because some people don't want any restrictions on their life.
Sure.
They don't want any higher authority.
Sure.
And I understand that, but it's wrong in this country because our founding documents say that.
Lee Korfman and Beverly Young Nelson have come forward with serious allegations. You have said that you did not know them or had no encounter with them. That's my understanding.
I did not know them. I had no encounter with them. I never molested anyone. And for them to say that, I don't know why they're saying it, but it's not true.
We also have women who were mentioned in the Washington Post article, Debbie Wesson Gibson and Gloria Thatcher.
I said I did not know any of the women who have charged me with sexual allegation on molestation, and I did not know any of the women. When I saw these pictures on the advertisements of my opponent, I did not recognize any of those people.
Sure.
I did not know them. I have written cards, graduation cards. I have known families. I've known a lot of people throughout my life, but these allegations are completely false. I did not date underage women. I did not molest anyone.
Right.
And so these allegations are false.
Let's put this over here in a box, all right? Why do you think that your opponent has been viciously attacking you of late?
Well, I think he's viciously attacking me because he knows his values, his standards are not what the Alabama people find dear to them. He is basically painting himself as a moderate when in fact he's a very liberal Democrat. He was appointed by Bill Clinton. He was a delegate for Barack Obama. He is a supporter of the Democratic platform, which stands in contradiction to what most people in Alabama believe. He naturally wants to take down my character and lift himself up without addressing the issues like immigration, like health care, military readiness, taxes. These things are very important to people, and they need to know the issues in the case before they vote.
But we haven't been able to talk about the issues because all we got to talk about is what
That's right.
is in the sensational stuff in the media.
Well, attack on my character. That's what it's been about.
All right, we're going to leave it there. We're going to come back. Do you mind staying with us one more second?
No, I'll stay.
Right. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with Judge Moore.
The Energy Institute of Alabama promotes reliable, affordable, and clean energy to help grow our economy, create high-paying jobs, and build public support for Alabama's energy industry. Access to clean, affordable energy continues to be an issue of vital importance in the halls of government and around the kitchen tables across our nation. The Energy Institute of Alabama is the best source of energy industry information and how it affects households across the state, from convenient energy production to alternative fuels to solar power and beyond.
I'm Roy Moore, and I approve this message.
Roy Moore is a man of character. He knows what it means to serve.
I definitely believe the establishment is trying to stop Roy Moore.
Judge Roy Moore will bring a flashlight of accountability to Washington, D.C.
Education is important in my generation. Judge Roy Moore is a leader that I can trust.
Judge Roy Moore will stand for the rights of the unborn. I'm a mom. I carry to protect my family. Judge Roy Moore will stand for the Second Amendment.
Roy Moore, the right choice.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We're here at Republican headquarters in Hoover, and our special guest is Judge Roy Moore. Judge Moore, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, won his election on saying that he wanted to make America great again. You have taken that theme of making America great again and added to it that you want to make America good again. How do we make America good again?
Well, I personally, Bill, don't think that we can make America great or make America good without God. I think God is the source of morality, or definition of right and wrong. And I think it, as the Bible says, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. But I do support Donald Trump in attempting to move in that direction, to make America great, to increase our military strength, to cut our taxes, to cut regulations, to stop illegal aliens coming across our border, to get out of the healthcare business as the federal government, and quite frankly, in my opinion, cutting things like the Common Core, the education problem we're having in our state. These things will make us stronger. But to make America great, we've got to be good. It is not the standards of the Alabama Supreme Court or the United States Supreme Court that's going to make a difference in our state or our nation. It's the fact that there is a standard higher than them, and that's an almighty God. We've got to go back to recognition that God is the God of the heart. We can be united as one people under God with liberty and justice for all. But if we fail in that regard, to recognize God, we can't be good, and if we can't be good, we can't be great.
Jeff Sessions, whose seat you're seeking, he's now the Attorney General for the United States. When he was there, he focused primarily on a lot on national issues. Of course, he worked with Senator Shelby, who more readily worked on things that would benefit Alabama specifically. If you win that seat, how will your tenure there be? Will you focus more on Alabama-centric issues? Will you look more to a national platform? I mean, rhetorics aside, people want to know what you're going to do for them.
Sure, and that's right to know. And under the 17th Amendment, we've got to recognize, we've got to get back to representing our state. That's what a senator's job originally was. He was chosen by the legislators of the state to represent the state interest. But many times these overlap. The interests of the state are the interest of the national government and the interest of the remaining country. So I'll do both. I will work on our national interests that affect our state, and on state interests like rebuilding the military and preserving our military bases in our state. We've got Fort Rucker, we've got Redstone Arsenal, we've got military. This is a great military state, and we need to keep that business here.
Alabama has sent more people, I think, than any other state into the military service.
That's right.
And proud of our military heritage.
And I'll work with other senators. I mean, that's something that you've got to do. That's part of the job. And we will work on constitutional issues to return, what affects the rest of the states affect Alabama. When we appoint a justice on the United States Supreme Court, it has effect not only in Alabama, but on the rest of the states. Right. And same for federal district courts across our land. These things become precedent in other courts. And when the Supreme Court rules, it becomes an overriding precedent. So we've got to go back to looking like we're part of the union, but we also have special interests in Alabama, which we need to take care of.
Well, I've always said that Alabama is the make me state. We don't like people coming down here and telling us what we've got to do. And,
That's right.
and someone asked me the other day, was there a Democrat that I thought could be sent to Alabama that would help Doug Jones? And I said, not any living ones.
Well, there's been a change in philosophy for the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party over the years. And we've got to go back to the recognition of what Harry Truman, I'll pick a Democrat.
Yeah, sure.
One of the first that I can't remember, I was too young, but in his inaugural address, he said, the American people stand firm in the faith which has inspired this nation from the beginning. We believe that all men are created equal, and from that faith, we will not be moved. We've been moved, both the Democratic Party and many times the Republican Party. We've got to go back to recognition of God and the Constitution, which was drawn after our forefathers to govern the powers of the national government.
Even with all the bruising of this campaign, if you prevail, do you think you can go to Washington and work with Mitch McConnell and work with these folks? I mean, do you think that's possible?
Well, I'll work with any of the senators that want to do constitutional means to for the federal government to pass legislation. That's always been my intent. I've been to Washington, met many senators, and I'm sure that we'll have communication. But I will stand for the principles of the Constitution. And when it violates separation of powers, checks and balances, when it violates the principle of federalism, then I'll stand up against it, no matter who it is, Democrat or Republican.
We know a lot about Roy Moore, the politician. We know a lot about Roy Moore, the judge. Tell us something we don't know about you.
I think with this recent investigation, I think people know me about everything. I like to work. I like to work outside in my off time. I've always had a love for government. I've always had a love for, getting back to the principles upon which this nation was founded. Duty, honor, country were the motto at West Point. I revere that today. I serve my country, I'll do my duty, and honor my God.
Judge Moore, we appreciate you. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you, Bill.
You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our special guest today has been Judge Roy Moore. He is running for the U.S. Senate. Thank you for watching The V. You watch us because we watch them.